A black girl helped a billionaire after he fainted, not knowing it would change her life forever. Rain hammered the city like 1,000 impatient fists. Neon signs bled color onto slick pavement. Jasmine clutched her worn backpack tighter, hurrying past shuttered storefronts. Her shoes squelched with every step. Soaked through from the storm, then a sharp gasp cut through the drumming rain. She turned. A man in a tailored charcoal suit crumpled against a graffiti-stained alley wall. His face was pale as moonlight. His breath came in shallow, ragged bursts. Jasmine hesitated. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Help is never wasted, baby, even when the world does not return the favor. She knelt beside him. Cold water seeped through her jeans. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck. A faint pulse fluttered beneath her touch, weak. But there, she pulled out her cracked phone. No signal. Of course, she unzipped her jacket and draped it over his shivering frame. Then she cradled his head in her lap, shielding his face from the rain. With her arms, minutes stretched like hours. Sirens wailed in the distance. Headlights sliced through the darkness. A black SUV screeched to a halt. 2 men in dark suits jumped out. Eyes wide with panic, "Mr. Thorne!" one shouted, dropping to his knees. Jasmine flinched as they gently lifted the man, Mr. Thorne, onto a stretcher. One of the men turned to her. His gaze lingered on her soaked clothes, her second-hand shoes, the exhaustion in her eyes. "Did you help him?" he asked, voice thick with disbelief. Jasmine nodded once. The man pulled out a sleek business card. "Come to this address tomorrow morning." 9 sharp! He pressed it into her palm. Before she could speak, the SUV vanished into the storm. Back in her tiny apartment above a laundromat, Jasmine stared at the card. Elias Thorne, CEO, Thorne Industries billionaire, philanthropist, recluse. She tucked it under her pillow, sleepless all night. The next morning, she stood outside a steel and glass tower that scraped the clouds. Her hands trembled, her stomach twisted. Security scanned her like she was a threat, but they let her pass. She rode an elevator so quiet it felt like falling. The doors opened to a penthouse, office bathed in golden light. Elias Thorne sat behind a desk of polished obsidian. He looked older, now haunted, but his eyes held something. "New gratitude, you saved my life," he said. Voice rough, Jasmine swallowed. "I just stayed." He stood slowly, walked to a window overlooking the city. "I have not spoken to another human being outside my staff in 3 years," he admitted. "My wife passed. My daughter, she left. Said I cared more about numbers than her." He turned. Tears glistened in his eyes. "You did not know who I was. You did not ask for anything. You just stayed." Jasmine's throat tightened. "I know what it is to be alone," she whispered. Silence stretched between them. Fragile, honest. Then he slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a full scholarship to any university she chose, and a note. "Teach me how to be human again." Jasmine looked up, stunned, but before she could respond, the office door burst open. A woman stormed in, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Dad, you cannot be serious," she snapped. "This girl is nobody. You are handing our legacy to a stranger?" Elias stepped forward, calm but firm. "Maya, she is not a stranger. She is the first person in years who saw me, not my money." Maya's glare turned icy. She turned to Jasmine. "You think this is a fairy tale? You have no idea what you are stepping into." Jasmine met her gaze without flinching. "I do not want your money," she said softly. "I only wanted to help a man who was hurting." Maya scoffed. But Elias placed a hand on Jasmine's shoulder. Then, "Help me heal," he said. "Help me rebuild something that matters." Jasmine took a breath. The city hummed below them, alive, chaotic, full of broken people trying to mend. She nodded, but as she left the office that day, a black sedan followed her home. Not Thorne's. Different plates, tinted windows. Watching, waiting. Someone did not want her near Elias Thorne, and they would do anything to make sure she disappeared. The sedan idled at the curb like a predator pretending to sleep. Jasmine slowed her steps. Heart hammering against her ribs, she ducked into the corner bodega, feigning interest in a rack of expired gum. Through the smudged glass, she watched the car's headlights flick off, but the engine kept purring. Her palms grew slick. She texted her older brother, Malik. "Black sedan outside my building." "Not Thorns watching me," he replied instantly. "Stay inside." "I'm coming." Minutes stretched like taffy. The bodega's fluorescent light buzzed like a trapped wasp. Then, headlights flared. The sedan peeled away, tires screeching into the night. Relief flooded her, until she saw it double back 2 blocks down, circling, hunting. Malik arrived in his rusted Honda, jaw set, eyes scanning the street like a soldier. "Get in," he said. She did. "Who are these people?" he asked, voice low. "I do not know," Jasmine whispered. "But I think they are afraid of what I might become." The next morning, she returned to Thorn Tower determined, not afraid. Elias greeted her with coffee and a folder labeled Project Phoenix. Inside were blueprints for a community center in her neighborhood fully funded. Her name listed as, "Director, you said you wanted to teach," he said gently. "Now you can teach." "Hundreds." Tears pricked her eyes. But before she could speak, Maya stormed in again, this time with a lawyer. "You are being manipulated." "Dad!" she hissed. "She is working with the press." "I have screenshots. Rumors are already spreading." Elias frowned. Jasmine's stomach dropped. "I have not spoken to anyone," she said firmly. Maya slammed a tablet on the desk. A gossip blog headline glared back. "Billionaire's secret heir? Mysterious girl inherits fortune," Jasmine gasped. "That is not true." Elias studied her face, searching. Then he turned to Maya. "Delete that post. Now." "It is not mine," Maya snapped. "But someone wants this narrative. Someone who benefits if we turn on each other." A cold realization slithered through Jasmine. The sedan. The rumors. This was not just about money. It was about control. That evening, as Jasmine walked home, her phone buzzed. An unknown number, a single image loaded, a photo of her mother's grave. Taken that morning. Beneath it, a message, "Walk away," or "The next photo is of you." She froze. Rain began to fall again, soft, cruel, familiar. But this time she did not run. She called Elias. Voice steady, she said, "They are threatening me, but I will not leave." On the other end, silence. Then, a quiet vow. "Then I will stand with you." The next day, Elias Thorne held a press conference. Cameras flashed like lightning. He stood beside Jasmine, not as a savior, but as a partner. "This young woman did not ask for fame," he declared. "She asked for nothing but to do what was right. And because of her courage, I am alive," he announced the community center and revealed. Maya had been secretly diverting company funds to offshore accounts for years. The crowd erupted. Maya's face went white. Security escorted her away, screaming betrayal. But as the cameras swarmed, Jasmine noticed a man in the back, tall, scarred eyebrow, watching her with cold eyes, the same man from the sedan. He gave a slow, deliberate nod, then vanished into the crowd. That night, Jasmine sat on her fire escape, staring at the stars through the city's haze. Her phone rang. It was the community center's first applicant, a single mother with 3 kids, asking if there would be after-school tutoring. Jasmine smiled for the first time in days. "Yes," she said, "there will be." But as she hung up, a shadow moved across the alley below. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming closer. She stood, breath caught in her throat. The door to her apartment creaked open, though she had locked it. Inside, on her kitchen table, lay a single black rose and a note. "You have won the battle, but the war has just begun." The black rose lay on her chipped formica table like a warning carved from night itself. Jasmine did not touch it. She backed away slowly, pulse thrumming in her ears. Her eyes darted to the window. Streetlights flickered. A figure stood beneath the flickering bulb across the alley. Tall, still, watching. She grabbed her phone. Fingers trembling but steady. Dialed 911. Then Elias. "Someone was in my apartment," she whispered. "No panic." "Only steal," Elias answered on the first ring. "Lock yourself in the bathroom. I am sending security. And Jasmine, do not open the door for anyone but Malik or me." She obeyed. The bathroom. Tile was cold beneath her bare feet. She pressed her ear to the door. Silence. Then a soft scrape, like a shoe on linoleum. Her breath hitched. Minutes crawled by. Sirens wailed in the distance. Then, stopped 2 blocks away, too far. Then a sharp knock. "Jasmine! It is me, Malik!" She knew his voice. Knew the way he always said her name like a promise. But Elias had warned her. "Prove it," she called through the door. "What did Mama say before she passed?" A pause, then softly. "She said, 'You are the light that does not need permission to shine.'" Tears burned her eyes. She unlocked the door. Malik rushed in, scanning the room, bat in hand. The apartment was empty, except for the rose and the note. At dawn, Elias arrived, not in a suit but in a worn leather jacket. Eyes shadowed with sleepless worry. He examined the note without touching it. "This handwriting, I have seen it before," he murmured. "Victor Kale, my former head of security. I fired him 3 years ago for extortion." "He vanished after that," Elias added grimly. "Now he is back, and he thinks you are the key to destroying me." Jasmine shook her head. "I am not a weapon." "No," Elias agreed, "but you are a witness, and in his world that is just as dangerous." That afternoon, police swept the building, found no fingerprints, no forced entry, only Jasmine's word against the silence. But Elias did not doubt her. He moved her and Malik into a secure apartment, high floor, panic room, 24-hour surveillance. Still, Jasmine refused to hide. She opened the community center's temporary office in a borrowed church basement, painted walls with kids from the block, hung posters that read, "Your voice matters. Your story is power." One rainy Tuesday, a girl no older than 10 tugged Jasmine's sleeve. "My brother says rich people only help to feel good about themselves," she whispered. Jasmine knelt, eye to eye, then let us prove him wrong, together. The girl smiled, and just like that, the fear in Jasmine's chest cracked open, letting in light. But that night, as she walked back to the secure building, headlights blinded her. The black sedan again. It slowed beside her. The window rolled down. Victor Kale's voice slithered out, smooth, venomous. "You think you are changing the world, little girl? You are just a pawn in a game you do not understand." Jasmine stood her ground. Rain soaked her hair. Her coat, her resolve. "I am not a pawn," she said, voice clear as glass. "I am the one who chooses where to stand." Kale laughed, a dry, broken sound. "Then choose carefully, because Thorne's empire is built on secrets. And some secrets bury people." The car sped off. Jasmine stood there, trembling, not from fear but fury. She called Elias, not to run, but to fight. "Tell me everything," she demanded. "Every secret, every lie. If Kale thinks he can use the past to destroy us, then we will face it together." Elias was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, "There is something I have never told anyone. My wife did not die of illness. She was murdered." Jasmine's breath stopped. "And the police ruled it an accident," Elias continued, voice raw, "but I knew, and I buried the truth to protect my daughter. Now Kale has proof, and he will leak it unless I hand over controlling shares of Thorne Industries." Jasmine closed her eyes. The rain fell harder, but inside her, something hardened into purpose. "Then we find the truth before he does," she said. Not for your empire, but for her, for justice, for the woman who never got to speak. The next morning, Jasmine and Elias entered the Thorne family archives, locked away for years. Dust danced in sunbeams, boxes labeled, "Personal, do not open." As Jasmine sifted through old journals, she found a faded photo, Elias's wife, smiling, holding a baby Maya on the back in delicate script. For my daughter, always question the silence. Jasmine's hand stilled, because beneath the photo was a USB drive, hidden in the lining of the box. She plugged it in. Files. Loaded security footage, bank records, and a voice recording dated the night she died. Elias's wife's voice, trembling. If anything happens to me, it is Victor. He knows about the offshore accounts. He is blackmailing Elias. I will not let him destroy my family. The recording cut off with a scream. Jasmine turned to Elias. His face was wet with tears. He killed her, he whispered. And I let him walk away. Jasmine placed the USB in his hand. Not anymore. They walked out of the archives together toward the police station. But as they stepped onto the street, sirens blared. Not police. News vans. Reporters swarmed, shouting, "Mr. Thorne, is it true you covered up your wife's murder?" Jasmine, did you know you were helping a killer? Cale stood on the sidewalk across the street, smiling. He had leaked the recording, but twisted it. Made it sound like Elias was the killer. The crowd turned on them. Cameras flashed like knives. Jasmine stepped in front of Elias. She raised the USB. "Drive high! The truth is here!" she shouted over the chaos. "Not the lies! The truth!" But no one listened. Only noise. Only suspicion. Then, a small voice cut through the storm. "Miss Jasmine?" It was the 10-year-old girl from the center. She stood with a dozen kids behind her, holding handmade signs. "We believe you." Truth wins. The crowd fell silent. One reporter lowered his camera, then another. Elias looked at Jasmine, awe in his eyes. "You built something real," he said, "while I was hiding in towers." That night, they released the full recording online, unedited, raw, undeniable. By morning, Victor Cale was in custody. Maya, watching from her jail cell, sent a letter. "I was wrong about you. Forgive me." Jasmine visited her, not for forgiveness, but for healing. Months later, the community center opened its doors, bright, bold, buzzing with life. Jasmine stood at the entrance. Watching children laugh in the courtyard, Elias stood beside her, no longer a billionaire hiding from grief, but a man learning to live again. He handed her an envelope. Inside was not money, but a deed. The building was hers, forever. She looked at him, eyes shining. "This is not mine," she said. "It belongs to every child who walks through that door." He nodded, and for the first time in years, he looked at peace. But as the sun set, casting long shadows across the street, a motorcycle roared past. The rider wore a black helmet, and on the back, painted in silver, a single raven, Kyle's symbol. Jasmine's breath caught, because Victor. Cale was in prison, so who was riding in his name? The raven emblem glinted in the dying light, sharp, mocking, impossible. Jasmine's fingers curled into fists at her sides. She had seen that symbol before, not just on Cale's old security patches, but etched into the frame of her mother's locket, the one stolen from her apartment the night of the break-in. Her breath came fast, shallow. Elias followed her gaze. "Kyle has allies," he said quietly. "But this feels personal." That night, Jasmine combed through old case files from her mother's unsolved disappearance 10 years ago. She had always been told it was an accident, a hit and run in the rain. But now, doubt coiled in her gut like smoke. She opened a dusty shoebox under her bed. Inside, a faded hospital bracelet, her mother's name, and a strange note tucked in the lining of the box, written in a hand she did not recognize. They took her because she saw too much. "Ask Thorne about Project Nightingale," Jasmine's blood ran cold. She turned to Elias, eyes blazing. "What is Project Nightingale?" He paled. "It was a private intelligence operation," he admitted, voice strained. "Funded by my company. Shut down after irregularities. Your mother," he whispered, "was a nurse at St. Marlowe Hospital. She treated a whistleblower from that project. He died in her care, but not before giving her a flash drive." Jasmine's knees nearly buckled. "My mother never told me." "Because they threatened you," Elias said. "And when she refused to hand over the drive, they made her vanish." Silence swallowed the room. 10 years of grief. 10 years of believing it was random. Now, truth, sharp as broken glass. The next morning, Jasmine went to St. Marlowe's abandoned records wing. Rain tapped the broken windows like impatient fingers. She found her mother's old locker, rusted shut, with a crowbar from Malik. She pried it open. Inside, a small metal tin, and inside that, the flash drive, still intact. She plugged it into her laptop. Files loaded, names, dates, payments to city officials, and one name circled in red. Victor Kale, lead operative. But beneath it, another name, handwritten in her mother's script, Elias Thorne, approved funding. Did he know? Jasmine's hands shook. Had Elias been part of this? She confronted him that evening, drive in hand. He read the files, then sank into a chair, face ashen. "I signed the budget," he said hoarsely. "But I was told it was counterterrorism. I never knew they were silencing civilians." "When your mother disappeared?" "I suspected, but I was afraid to look." He looked up, tears in his eyes. "I failed her." "And I failed you." Jasmine wanted to rage, to walk away. But she saw the truth in his eyes, not guilt alone, but remorse, and a willingness to make it right. "We expose it all," she said. "Not just Kale, not just the past. The whole system that lets men like him disappear, women like my mother." They worked through the night, compiled evidence, contacted a fearless journalist known for taking down corrupt empires. By dawn, the story was ready to publish. But as Jasmine stepped outside to send the final files, her phone buzzed, an anonymous message. A photo, Malik, blindfolded, bound to a chair in a dim concrete room. Text below, "Send the files, and he dies. Come alone to the old Thorne warehouse." 1 hour, her world tilted. She turned to Elias, voice breaking but resolute. "They have Malik." Elias's eyes hardened. "No," he said. "We do not play by their rules anymore. He called in a favor, former military, off-grid, loyal only to truth." Within minutes, a black van arrived. Not Thorns, not police, just men and women who owed Elias their lives, and now owed Jasmine their loyalty. They moved like shadows through the rain. The warehouse loomed ahead, rusted metal, broken windows, the scent of oil and decay thick in the air. Jasmine's heart pounded, but her steps did not falter. Inside, Victor Kale stood beside Malik, gun pressed to his temple, but he was not alone. A woman stood beside him, tall, elegant, face eerily familiar. Jasmine froze. It was Maya, free on bail, smiling like a knife. "You thought prison would stop me?" Maya said, voice honeyed with malice. "Dad's empire was always mine. And you are just a ghost from a dead woman's mistake." Jasmine's blood turned to ice. Maya had been working with Kale all along, using him, using everyone. "Let him go," Jasmine said, stepping forward. "Or the files go public in 60 seconds. She held up her phone. "Live upload bar already at 98%, Kyle." Snarled. Maya's smile vanished. Then, sirens. Not police.news drones. The journalist had sent them as backup. Lights flooded the warehouse. Kale lunged for Jasmine, but from the rafters, a figure dropped, silent, swift, disarmed him in one motion. It was the 10-year-old girl's older brother, the one who said rich people only help to feel good. Now he stood with a tactical vest. Eyes fierce. "I joined the Truth Squad," he said simply. Kale was tackled. Maya tried to run, collared by Elias's team, Malik was free. Jasmine ran to him, tears streaming, but as they embraced, her eyes caught something on the warehouse wall. Graffiti. Fresh. A raven, with Jasmine's name beneath it. And below that, 3 words. You are next. She pulled back, scanning the shadows. Someone was still out there. Someone higher. Someone who had ordered her mother's silence. Someone who had used Kale and Maya as pawns. The real power had not been touched, and it was watching, always watching. The warehouse fell silent except for the drip of rain through the rusted roof. Jasmine stared at the graffiti, her name beneath the raven, like a curse carved in spray paint. Malik gripped her shoulder. We're leaving. Now. But Elias stepped forward, eyes locked on the symbol. That raven. It is not Kale's, he said slowly. It is the mark of the Aurelian Circle. Jasmine frowned. What is that? A secret consortium, Elias whispered. Billionaires, judges, intelligence heads. They operate above laws. My wife, she was investigating them before she died. He turned to Jasmine, voice grave. Your mother didn't just treat a whistleblower. She was the whistleblower. The truth hit like a freight train. Her mother hadn't stumbled into danger. She had walked straight into it, on purpose, for justice. That night, back at the secure apartment, Jasmine opened her mother's old journal, pages she had skimmed as a grieving child but never truly read. Now, under a soft lamp, she saw what she had missed, coded entries, dates matching Project Nightingale, and a name repeated like a prayer. Dr. Lillian Cross, not her mother's real name, her alias. She had been deep cover. Working with federal investigators, until the Circle found out Jasmine's hands trembled as she turned the final page. There, pressed between the sheets, was a key, brass, tiny, engraved with the number 217 and a note in her mother's hand. If I am gone, go to the truth. Locker 217, Grand Central. At dawn, Jasmine and Elias stood beneath the celestial ceiling of Grand Central Terminal. Morning light streamed through high windows. Commuters rushed past, unaware of the secret buried in their midst. Locker 217 was tucked in a quiet corner. Jasmine inserted the key. It turned with a soft click. Inside, a manila envelope and a small audio recorder. She pressed play, her mother's voice, calm. Steady, final. If you are hearing this, I did not make it out, but you will. Listen closely, baby. The Circle's leader is not a stranger. He walks among the powerful, smiling while he burns truth to ash. His name is Senator Alden Graves, Jasmine's. Breath caught. Graves, the man who had just been nominated for vice president. The man who gave speeches about protecting the vulnerable. The man who had shaken Elias's hand at charity galas for years, and then her mother added one last line, voice breaking. He was at the hospital the night they took me. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Tell no one." I should have screamed. But I thought of you, and I stayed quiet. So you could live. Tears blurred Jasmine's vision. She had spent her life believing her mother died by accident. But she had been silenced for protecting her daughter, for believing in a world where truth mattered. Jasmine wiped her eyes. Then she stood tall. We go to the press, she said. No. Elias replied gently. Graves controls the press, the courts, even parts of the FBI, he met her. Gaze. But there is one place he cannot reach. The people. They launched a live stream that night from the community center. Jasmine stood before a wall of children's artwork. Her mother's journal open on the table. She played the recording, showed the files, named every name, and then she said the words that would echo across the nation. My mother died because she believed someone would finish what she started. That someone is me, and I am not alone. Within hours, Finish her work trended worldwide. Protests erupted outside government buildings. Former Circle members began flipping, fearing the tide. Senator Graves held a press conference. Smirking. Baseless conspiracy. he declared, fabricated by a troubled girl and a guilt-ridden billionaire. But then, Maya, from her prison cell, released a hidden recording, herself and Graves, discussing Kale's operations. "You clean up the messes," Graves had said, especially the ones with brown skin and loud voices. The nation roared. Graves was arrested at dawn. As news vans swarmed his mansion, Jasmine stood on the steps of the newly opened community center, now named the Lillian Cross Center for Truth and Tomorrow. Children played in the courtyard. Malik taught coding in the tech. Lab Elias handed out books in the library. His eyes no longer haunted, but hopeful. A reporter approached Jasmine. "What now?" She looked at the mural the kids had painted on the wall. A black woman with wings, holding a lantern. "My mother's light never went out," she said softly. "It just needed someone to carry it." But as the sun set, a plain envelope appeared on her doorstep. No stamp, no return address. Inside, a single photograph. Her mother, standing with a group of women in front of a clinic in Ghana, all smiling, all alive. On the back, a new message in familiar handwriting. "Some of us got away. We are waiting for you. The circle is bigger than Graves, and the fight is not over." Jasmine's heart pounded, not with fear, but fire. She looked up at the stars, then packed her bags, because her mother's story was not an ending. It was a beginning, and Jasmine would follow it. To the very edge of the world, the Nairobi sun rose over the Ngong Hills like a promise kept. Jasmine stood on the rooftop of a quiet safe house, wind tugging at her locks, eyes fixed on the horizon. 3 months had passed since Accra, since the raid, since the world believed Lillian Cross had died again in a tragic clinic fire. But Jasmine knew the truth. Her mother had vanished into the network, alive, hidden, still fighting, and so was she. The Dawn Network had grown, from Ghana to Jakarta. From Rio to Detroit, truth seekers whispered in encrypted channels, preserved erased voices, and exposed lies buried under layers of power. Project Chimera had been crippled, not destroyed, but wounded. And the Circle? They were scared, because for the first time, they were not hunting ghosts. They were being hunted by them. That morning, a secure message pinged on Jasmine's tablet. It was from Elias. Attached, a live feed from New York City Hall, mayor's office, a plaque being unveiled. The Lillian Cross Center for Digital Justice, protecting truth in the age of erasure. Elias stood beside Malik, who now led cybersecurity for the initiative. Children from their old neighborhood held signs. "We remember. We resist." Jasmine smiled through tears. Her mother's name, no longer a secret, no longer a wound, was now a shield for others. Then, another message. This one from an untraceable line, just 2 words. "Look up." Jasmine lifted her eyes. Across the valley, on a distant rooftop, a figure stood silhouetted against the dawn, wearing a familiar head wrap, holding a small lantern, just like the one in the mural back home. Lillian, alive, watching, waiting. Not to run, but to reunite. Jasmine didn't run toward her. She walked, calm, steady, sure, because she was no longer the girl who knelt in the rain to help a stranger. She was the woman who built sanctuaries from silence, who turned grief into gardens, who taught the world that one act of kindness could unravel an empire of lies. When they finally embraced, no words were needed, only breath, only presence. Only the quiet understanding that some bonds cannot be broken, not by death, not by distance, not by fear. Later that week, Jasmine stood before a global coalition of young activists in Nairobi. She did not speak of villains or vengeance. She spoke of choice. "Power does not always wear a crown," she said, voice clear and strong. "Sometimes it wears worn shoes and kneels in the rain to help someone no one else sees." She paused. That moment, that choice, is where revolutions begin. As the crowd rose in applause, Jasmine looked out at faces of every shade, every story, every scar, and she saw her younger self in each of them, hopeful, afraid, unbroken. That night, she sat with her mother under a sky thick with stars. No sirens, no threats, just peace. Hard won, fragile, sacred. Do you think it is over? Jasmine asked softly. Lillian took her hand. No, my light, she said. But the war is no longer theirs to control. It is ours to shape. And as long as one person chooses kindness over fear, truth over silence, we have already won. Jasmine leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Somewhere, far away, a child helped a stranger in the rain, and the world began to change, again. Not with a bang, but with a hand reached out, a life saved, a legacy reborn, and in that quiet act, forever.